Welcome to Automotive EV. My name is Peter Wooding and thank you for joining us. Today we have episode 5 in our Automotive Outbound series. The session will be hosted by Dennis Vance, and we're also delighted that we can have as guests today Lindsay English, Marty Colbeck and Wesley Hitt. So Dennis, as chair, I'd be delighted to hand over to you now. Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm a chair, but whatever thing. Anyway, thanks, Peter. Hey, welcome to everybody joining us today. I understand we have a large number of people registered for this event, which is awesome. I think it's a really good topic that we're going to talk about today. We've got a great panel for us from a wide variety selection of the industry. So it's really going to be an interesting discussion this morning. So we appreciate everybody joining us. Our topic is outbound futures, which is one of my favorite discussion topics because, you know, there's things that you and I have to handle on a daily basis with each of our responsibilities. But you always have to be looking past the horizon to play some of that what if scenario. And as everybody knows that's on this panel and people registered, you know, the automotive logistics industry it's a complicated business. There's always things that happen. It seems like, if not daily, at least weekly, that we're faced with that we each have to deal with. So that's why I think this is going to be a super discussion. What I'd like to do now is ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and kind of give us a 30-second overview of your roles and responsibilities. And we'll start with Lindsay. Hey, Lindsay.
Hi, Dennis. My name is Lindsay English. I'm the Director of Strategy and Planning at ICL Systems. So my responsibilities include marketing and sales, as well as product development for the business case behind some of our technology solutions. Prior to working at ICL, so I did run Rubicon, ICL's third-party logistics operation for 3 years. And prior to that, I was with the Canadian Pacific Railway in a variety of roles from marketing and sales to operations.
Great. Thanks, Lindsay. All right, Mr. Colbeck, Marty Colbeck, if you would, please.
Hey, good morning. How are you? I hope everything is going well for people. We're staying healthy. My name is Marty Colbeck. I am the Director of Sales East Coast for Auto Warehousing. We do port processing, rail car unloading, plant distribution, plant receiving of vehicles. I've been in the industry for about 40 years and became interested in logistics when I pulled Moses out of the river. It's an absolutely wonderful, thrilling, and exciting arena to be in for the past 40 years. Never been bored, absolutely love it. I'm the co-chair with Bill Kerrigan on the AIAG Finished Vehicle Logistics Steering Committee. And really, electronic vehicles and the way and the speed of advancement in the industry is just taken everyone by storm. So I'm delighted and thrilled that I was asked to be a part of this panel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Wesley, if you would, please.
Yes, sir. I'm Wesley Hitt. I work for Williams Wilhelmsen Solutions. My current role is General Manager of Nissan Logistics and Support. Our role is a little bit different than a lot of 3PLs. We're pretty well integrated in my position with Nissan. We handle all the logistics in Mexico as well as in the US and Canada. We manage all the port processing, all the plant processing to make sure that everything is staying on pace and that we're meeting the numbers. But we're also integrated on the support side with sales. So we have weekly and daily sales meetings to get the demand piece put together on a monthly, yearly basis through the car flows and that sort of thing. And then I turn it over to the other side of my group to move the product and get it to market, hopefully to achieve the number. So we achieve the number every year. I'm still here. So anyway, that's my role.
Hey, thanks, Wes. I want to thank our panel for agreeing to join us today. I've known each of our panel members from probably 15 years, maybe a little bit longer. I wasn't around, though, when Marty pulled Moses out of the river, though, so I haven't known him that long. But anyway, For our audience, everyone registered, just want to remind you, there is a capability that if you have questions you want to ask the panel today, feel free to submit those. And then as we go through our discussion here, we'll try and answer as many of those as possible. So, so Lindsay, let me lead off with you, if you don't mind. You know, we've had an unprecedented 12-month period that we've all gone through and faced a lot of challenges. So for you and your group and the customers you interface with, what have we learned from the challenges of COVID? And also what's going to help shape our outbound logistics in the future with all of these different things that we've been confronted with?
Right. So what we see is anytime there's some sort of disruption, whether it's COVID or a major weather event or labor action or something like that, there's an increased focus on data and needing to know your inventory, needing to know where every vehicle is. There's more focus, especially when there's a disruption, on getting the right vehicles to the right locations on time. So making sure that sold order gets there, even if it's buried somewhere in the yard, you need to be able to identify that that specific car has a deadline it needs to make. And also accessing that data quickly and being able to share it with your suppliers. Because if you can't provide the right information to your service providers, you can't collaborate with them and make sure that you achieve the results that you need to achieve. So there's always been a focus towards visibility and collaboration and sharing information in our industry, but there's more and more of a push to get it in real time now. It's not okay to batch data. It's not okay to wait until tomorrow morning to get an update on a yard inventory status. Our customers want to know in real time exactly where every vehicle is. So we're seeing that that's really going to be a learning experience, that there's more focus on wanting to invest in real-time data so that we can accommodate the next disruption better. And there's going to be another disruption. We just don't know what it is yet.
That's probably the truest statement ever made within this business. There's always going to be another disruption, right? We think we've handled the last curveball, but then something else comes across the plate. So, Wes, what about you? Same question. You guys, you obviously have a lot of responsibilities down there. What would be your response to that?
You're talking as far as the visibility and the data in the real time?
Well, the challenges from COVID that, what are the lessons that we've learned that hopefully make us better, stronger, faster going forward?
I would think what would make us stronger, we need to find a way to buffer the capacity problems that you have when a COVID hits. The market came back fairly fast, but the capacities, on the manufacturing side, they had issues with capacity with parts. And the demand for the cars was there, but the parts weren't. Chip shortages going on right now. We've got resin shortages. But on the haul-away side, haul-away lost about 30% of their drivers, and they still haven't replaced them. And I think from an industry perspective, I think we did a really good job because we're on the processing side as well. We were back into business pretty quick. Now, we had to make a lot of adjustments, and I think obviously we'll put that on the shelf if something comes around again where you have another pandemic. So I think we recovered pretty fast, but the ancillary functions, rail's done okay, not great, but truck has really suffered. And I think that's the one thing that we should talk about as an industry. How do we prepare ourselves for that on the capacity side? Because that's a hard one to fix. It's big, right? It's a lot of trucks, a lot of people. They got laid off and probably just said, I'm done with this piece of the business. How do we buffer ourselves from that in the future?
Yeah, good comment. Marty, so what do you see as some of the biggest challenges to the finished vehicle logistics industry? Because you auto warehousing, you guys, I don't know if you handle everybody, but you handle most OEMs. So what are some of the biggest challenges you see for us?
Well, I think that the finished vehicle logistics is unique in that we have a shared asset, right, Wesley? We've got rail cars that are shared, and it makes this industry extremely difficult because the right hand, as Lindsay pointed out, the right hand may not know what the left hand is doing. It's the communication and the detail behind the communication being transferred from one part of the chain to the next part of the chain, just going through. And the ability is there. It's just that we haven't implemented it enough. We haven't standardized the communication. As Lindsay pointed out, most of the suppliers in the industry are on a real-time basis. But I can point out to you 3 or 4 different OEMs that are still working in batch, right? And when a vehicle comes out of the back of the plant and you have to wait an hour to verify what the status of that vehicle actually is, your yard gets congested and it creates difficulty, right? So we have to, as an industry that is interconnected, make sure that the communication that we share is accurate, is detailed, and is real time. And couldn't agree with what Lindsay said more.
Right. Thanks, Marty. In my role, I'm a big systems person. I'm a big systems supporter. You know, everybody wants the newest, greatest mousetrap in that regards, because truthfully, it's going to make you better, more efficient, and these type of things. In my role with the North Motors Group, we deal with a lot of different OEMs similar to you guys, and then also we deal with a lot of automotive suppliers. So you see a lot of different systems being utilized out there, and obviously there's variations of their advancement, which I'm sure Lindsay sees all the time. And so, you know, in that regard, Lindsay, so there's a lot of discussion about new technologies and switching from EDI and APL and using vehicle telematics, and you know, so are the OEMs and the service providers, you know, what can they do to future-proof their supply chain from a system standpoint?
Yeah, so I think the simple answer is to be able to do everything. There's no like one technology that, you know, this is the one thing that we should all invest in, only do this one thing. There's so many different capabilities in this industry with so many different providers, you know, especially when you get into like a lot of the truck carrier operations and the smaller carriers, they're not necessarily going to have the cutting edge technology maybe, but they need the ability to transmit that data somehow. So part of what we try to do is be flexible so that anybody who needs to interchange data for one of our customers with us can do it through any format that they're capable of using. If it's the most, you know, latest, greatest that the industry is embracing, we've got the ability to accommodate that. But if they need just a web screen where they can upload an Excel file a couple times a day to update inventory information, for example, or report deliveries, we've got to be able to accommodate that too, and everything in between. A couple of the areas where we're making investments to make it easier is developing mobile applications that the service providers can use to do reporting. So bypassing the web screen entirely, scan a vehicle with your phone, download the mobile app to your phone. There's no new hardware that you need to invest in to do that. So that's just one more way that we can make it more accessible for people to exchange data. I do think that API is often misunderstood when it's discussed in our industry. So it's just a different way of exchanging data, right? The technology itself is not, we want to rush out to embrace the latest and greatest sometimes without understanding the business case for it. So first, define the business problem that you're trying to solve. And once you know what your business problem is, you can identify the right technology solution. What API brings to the table is a lot of the same information that we're already exchanging through EDI, but the ability to do it closer to real time. And there's a lower barrier to getting that data feed set up. So, so when we're looking at developing new interfaces now, we're looking at all of those options and interfacing with the provider or the OEM on whichever one of those platforms is going to work for them best. Yeah. Make it frictionless.
Gotcha. I'm sorry?
I was going to ask Lindsay, one of the things that, Marty, I was working on the AAIG standardization of data exchange, you know, with the carriers. And we've been exchanging with our carriers for a long time, giving them pipeline files. And if something changed with the VIN and it got unassigned, reassigned, if it's coming to you, you could see it. And we have a very strict governance around before a carrier comes on that they have to be able to consume that, you know, consume all the information when we tender the car and such. But one of the things that we didn't do, we didn't take one more step. This has been a very long process for many years. We didn't confirm how the carriers to use that data and manage it. And so we send them pipeline files, and you got some carriers that are very disciplined about it. and very good about it. But I think there's a big opportunity to get some standardization around, even if it's a high level minimum requirements. You give them that pipeline file, there should be no surprises coming at you when you have a bubble coming on the rail or even coming out of a plant. If you've got the information, use it. And I think that's one of the challenges we have, that we get all kinds of feeds back and we can use it and look at the inventory. But what I'm pushing out to the masses of the carriers, if they're not using it the right way, we're missing an opportunity.
Wesley, you're dead nuts on. As far as I'm concerned, you're right on the money. And my question to Lindsay is do you think that a standardization of transaction sets, not limiting the creativity of any one supplier or the ability to go out and create a new mousetrap or whatever, but the more that we standardize, as Wesley, I think, is hitting to, the way that we look at the data and the transaction sets that we exchange with each other, so that we can all understand what the timing is, where the event takes place, we can communicate better. And again, we're looking at a shared asset community that says that I need to know where those rail cars are, what's going on. I need to know what these events are. And you, the OEM, needs to tell me what you see is the next build coming on. Where's it going to? Going to East Coast, going to West Coast, and how's it going? Do you think that standardization of, let's say, transaction sets, for lack of any better word, would be helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what Wesley referred to with the AAIG is really important, so that we have a communal definition of, what a pickup location means, for example. I mean, this is an industry that's always concerned about cost, regardless of what else we're focused on. And the more that we can standardize how we communicate with each other, the cheaper it is to implement technology. So that's where I see the biggest benefit to everybody in the supply chain.
Right. Well, that's an excellent point, because a lot of people spend a lot of money investigating other ways of doing things, but a lot of times you find it doesn't work with OEM A or OEM B or OEM C. But if there was a standardization that everybody's feeding into the same model, you're lacking the amount of money that you have to invest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But this, I do think the standardization will always be like the starting point, and then there's the little customization that works its way in, right? So you've got to be able to make it frictionless to accommodate the standard and the custom.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I said there needs to be a minimum standard, because you're right. I mean, some people's going to have more attributes in the file that pertain to their type vehicles and that sort of thing. But minimum requirement standardization, I think, needs to be done, and how you consume it and use it on the other end.
Let me throw a little accolade to the ICL group. You guys handle a lot of the OEMs across the board, and system-wise, you guys do a great job integrating the different information data with the different brands. So hats off to you guys. Hey, Marty, switching it up a little bit, they auto warehousing, again, handles a lot of the brands. And so you see a lot of the challenges integrating your systems with your customer systems. And when you enter a new facility, you probably talk about the physical plant itself, the processes within the plant, the people that, are there. But really the thing that drives your business, the success of your business rather, is the systems. And so if your customer doesn't have a top shelf system that they're currently using, somehow you've got to have that dialogue with them about, that aspect of their business, right?
Dennis, have you been in our corporate meetings, or what's going on here? Because
not lately, but
we're currently involved with a manufacturer that has requested that as a part of the implementation that we use their legacy system, right? Yep. When out of our back pocket, we have what's called VIPS, Vehicle Inventory Processing System. And our VIPS system can tell you down to the interior color of the vehicle, the engine size, where that vehicle is in what lot, when, real time, to Lindsay, again, real time. But we're forced to use the legacy system of that OEM because they say, we know it, okay, and we're going to use our system. And we're saying, dude, Let me just put my system next to yours for a 6-month period. Let's analyze the data and let's see the accuracy of each one of these. And we're not trying to sell you anything. You already bought our service. We're just trying to make this service better. So please take a look at what we've got and how we can implement our system into your production, your manufacturing, and your release and delivery. So you're absolutely right.
Well, every morning, when I was doing my Honda logistics position, you start, and every OEM I think is the same. Correct me if I'm wrong, but every OEM starts their morning off with their call, where they have all their locations on the call, and they're basically checking, how the network is doing that day, good and bad, because
Yes.
you have to identify your challenges, because frankly, when you walk out of that meeting, that's on your to-do list. And whether it's ICL or another provider, whatever brand Marty Colbeck's group's working with, or with Wesley, you have to know what your issues are so you can better manage it. And so you're only as good as the data, right?
That's
If you
correct.
have good data, if you have good visibility, if you have a good dashboard, now you can make better decisions. Wes, what do you think?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you really look at a whole year with Honda or with Nissan or whoever, you're only managing about 3,000 or 4,000 cars. And those 3,000 or 4,000 are the ones that get you in trouble, but you need to see those before they become a problem. You don't manage most of the cars. They just flow and they go, but you got to have good visibility. And one of the challenges, we have really good systems with our company. Really, I mean, we got a lot of customers as well, but we got really good visibility. The biggest challenge that we've had is what are those limiters that flags that one problem you've got coming. And one of the things that we've done, and we generate ETAs all the way back up into serialization at the plant, and we estimate when that car is going to leave on the rail, put the rail transit on top of. So we're now predicting rail ramps inventory 35, 40 days before the car is even built. Based on traditional processing and lead time, which has helped us a lot. It's keeping us out of trouble. It used to be we loaded real heavy and all of a sudden, hey, we got to get backup support in that ramp. But that visibility helps so much with, you can actually slow some of the loading down to create some gaps and that sort of thing. And it helps the whole industry. We're all in this together. So if we overrun a ramp, we could hurt somebody else and get the ramp embargoed. It's really important that everybody manages that properly.
I think the one statement you made is kind of interesting, which a lot of people don't talk about, is whatever brand you represent, you are impacted by what some of the other brands are doing in the marketplace. And you don't really realize it till there's problems. But if there's rail car supply or something like this, and then you start looking into what's causing it, you find out, brand X, Y, or Z has an issue. And it's impacting your network. And I'm sure Marty sees this with all the different brands you guys handle. So,
you're making an excellent point. The fact of the matter is that I truly believe, whether you want to believe it or not, I truly believe there's enough rail equipment in the industry currently on site. But where is that equipment, right? There's a backup out on the West Coast right now with 40 vessels at anchor in the water out around Los Angeles trying to come in and unload. Well, guess what? Those empty rail cars out on the West Coast that we made empty going into Mariloma are still going to hang around the West Coast waiting for a load to go back to the east, right? They're not going to send those empty back to the east. So what happens to the assembly plants that continue to build and get an inventory of 5,000 vehicles at the origin, waiting for those rail cars to come back so that they can dump the stuff from the west, make them empty, and then reload them in the east? Wesley, you hit it dead nuts on the head, is that it's a cycle that everybody is dependent on everybody. And again, that's that shared asset situation that we as an industry have to be smart enough to figure out how to manage it. And to this point in time, we've done it and we've limped along, but we got to start running because, man, the customers have that electronic ability, as Lindsay points out, to track, right? They're sitting there real time saying, oh, my vehicle came out of the assembly plant at 12:03 yesterday. How come it's not here today? And you're going, geez, maybe it's a rail car shortage. I don't know. We've got to be smart enough to figure that out.
Yeah, and the industry, like the conversation most recently has been about like managed by, sorry, I was supposed to turn my sounds off, managed by exception, setting up alerts so you know where that problem is. So you come in and start your day with all of the information you need for that daily call, for example. But what we need to move more towards is prediction. So I don't think we'll ever get to the point where the decision making is automated. Like we know that rail ramp is going to be full 45 days ago or 45 days from now. So automatically send a tender for some surplus trucking? Probably not, but automatically send an alert to Wesley to say, you might need to look into this. Here's a list of problems that are going to come up in the future. And then it's up to us as seasoned logistics people to use those alerts to do something intelligent with it. And I think that's where like the automation and the value add in our industry is going to come from, is automating some of that information gathering and predicting activity.
Right.
Hey, Dennis, I was going to go back to one thing about everybody behaving properly in the industry. We know that everybody gets out of kilter at times for various reasons, right? To find holes or unassignments and heavy shipping bubbles going through. But one thing that the industry is trying to do on the railroad side with the ALEC impact, and Lindsay's been to some of those meetings from the railroad perspective, the OEMs are telling the railroads we need to be more transparent, because there was always this, the commercial side was worried a little bit, but now most of the railroads are sharing who's the bad behavior. And we pick up the phone and call them and say, okay, you need to get back in line here. We're all going to get embargoed from this ramp. Do I need to do something to help support it? We actually are having those conversations when we know something's not working properly. We got a couple ramps we have to watch really close. And if we don't call them and say we're going to ship this many, but if it starts getting in trouble, we will see what we need to do from a carrier perspective, because sometimes we're sharing the same carrier. So do we need to bring in another carrier? And we don't talk price or anything like that. It's all about getting the inventory down so we don't get embargoed, which is what we really don't want to happen.
Right.
To give Peter Wooding some accolades, I think that's one of the great things about the publication, doing these kind of sessions, frankly, I enjoy the real meetings better, obviously, but the connectivity you and I have with other people within the industry, because, if I have a question about Nissan or brand X, whatever, by and large, most of the people I know, and I'll give Wes a call and say, hey, what's going on, with you guys? And because it's all connected. As we all know, there is connectivity across the board. So switching gears just a little bit for Lindsay, let's talk telematics. One of my favorite topics, which I have a lot of optimism for.
Yeah.
So what role is telematics going to play in the future for us?
One of my favorite topics as well. So I feel like telematics hasn't found its fit yet with Outbound.
I agree.
Yes, there's potential. So where I see this, so logistics is about more than just knowing the location of the vehicle, right? So I had one of those things on my keychain, the tile, and then you lose your keys and you can see the little dot, pull it up on your app and see where your keys are. And I had left it in like this shared rental vehicle, so I could see the dot driving around the map in Montreal. That doesn't help me. I don't know who has it. I don't know the chain of custody. And it's the same problem with using telematics and logistics. The telematics alone does not tell you the information that you need. That's not going to tell you what Wesley was talking about with 45 days from now, that ramp is going to get full and you need to start making some plans for it. I think where telematics brings a lot of potential is to tell you the condition of the vehicle. So if I know in advance that I need to charge a battery when that car gets here, then I can put those proactive measures in place so that I mitigate the impact to that vehicle's delivery and to the operation at the facility, because now we've got the right materials, we're prepared to do that work order. Especially with more electric vehicles coming into the market with the theme of today's discussion, I think that's going to be more and more relevant. But I do see telematics being married with the rest of that chain of custody kind of supply chain information, because you need to know like who delayed the shipment, who was responsible for it when it got damaged, and the telematics alone is not going to tell you that. You've got to have the full picture.
Yeah. I
But
think
to
it's
take another switch on that, until the OEMs are assured that nobody can come into their systems and mess with their systems, until they have the 150% security that nobody, if I'm going to transmit you data, if I'm going to give you the data, if I'm going to tell you what the tire pressure is on this vehicle, if I'm going to tell you what the battery state of charge is on this vehicle, I want to be 150% assured nobody can get into my system and mess with my system. That's the reticence that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to see that high a percentage of confirmation, but
We've got to. In order to make this system more efficient, we've got to figure out a way to trust each other with the data and to figure out how to make it move. Look, right now, I don't know, I'm going to give a guesstimate of at least 60% of the vehicles have the ability to tell you if the tire pressure is low, if the battery state of charge is low, when it comes out of the factory.
right.
Now, imagine me being the yard manager coming in the morning, turning on my computer, and I'm identifying 20 vehicles that need to have the battery changed exactly where those vehicles are in my yard, exactly what's going to happen. You're going to cut 2 days out of a delay transfer. We've got to figure out, the electronics is far exceeding what we're ready to do.
And I think that's a true statement, because I think the capability is there. I think the value benefit is there.
Yes, sir.
The confidence, I guess, and the trust thing is a piece that everybody wants, that assurance piece. And I think that's one of the obstacles the industry is facing, because I'm a huge telematics person. I think it's funny we're talking about this. Everybody's short of microchips right now. So, but
I'll tell you one thing though, Dennis, is that right now we have an assurance from our federal government that the infrastructure is going to be improved, right? If, when we're laying that concrete down, we don't make allowances for telematics, we don't make allowances for electrification. If somebody from the automotive industry isn't talking to the government and what's got to go on in order to see 10 years from now the transmittal of information while the vehicle's on the ground, it goes towards automated vehicles, it goes towards everything. We've got to be thinking 10 years ahead. And we can't continue to limp along and hope that the next guy will handle that. The next guy's not going to handle it.
Well, and I think you get a lot of that kick the can down the road mentality. You know, I don't want to deal with it. Let Lindsay deal with it. She's younger. But you know, I think it's, you know, it's one of the solutions to a lot of the topics that we all discuss, right? And so I'm big on it. I'm still in your court, Lindsay, on this thing. So, okay, Wes. So managing a good outbound network, it's a balance between cost, time, and quality. So what do you see shaping the future of outbound? You know, for all of us.
Well, I think there's some unknowns right now with the outbound. I think the electric vehicles is a wild card a little bit. And I think that, you know, for the first time I've ever heard of it, we actually, and I'm in the VQ, I'm the co-chair of the VQ, and it came up in one of our meetings, a rail car was actually overweight. They had to unload a couple of vehicles off of a rail car. It was an Automax actually, and they had 24 on it. I think from a capacity standpoint, I think the EV vehicles is going to be a game changer. And I think the way I see it, we've been shipping Leafs and electric vehicles. I looked at it this morning since 2010. And we were all really, really, really worried about when we started shipping them, what happens if the battery goes dead or, you know, that kind of thing. Never was an issue. And it still hasn't been an issue. And we have in our plants where we build the Leaf, we have a lot of cars to mix with it. But I believe from an outbound standpoint, as we begin to get more and more and more electric vehicles in the system, you know, a plant's producing 70% electric, maybe I'm saying 30% other, the load factors are going to change.
Sure.
The carriers cannot get, you know, let's say they could get 9, they're probably going to 7. and it's going to affect that capacity that I reviewed earlier. Quality will probably be better. They'll space them out. But I think the outbound logistics piece of that is going to be disrupted.
Right.
We've been working on a thing with the VEQ for the future. We put some standards around. The standards have already been set for electric, right? So, but we're giving the railroads a tool to put their infrastructure in for charging batteries. I'm going to tell you, there won't be many to charge. We've had hardly any die. It's the weight that's going to be the problem, I believe.
Yeah. So Marty, we got a question from our audience. And the question is, if the vehicle's identifying a problem directly in this, then surely the main system, the OEM's main system, could not be infiltrated. Did I get that right? Yeah. Does that make sense?
I don't know. I'm a neophyte. Remember me, Moses, back in the old days, and I'm still of that mind. I've got to understand it better, but the manufacturers have an absolute concern, and I can verify it through several different manufacturers, that they have to have that 150% assurance that nobody can touch their systems. Nobody can integrate that system. And that's one of the biggest concerns that they continue to tell the AIAG and the other folks, that the reason that we don't share this is that we have to be assured that there is no way that we can get in, that anyone else can get into our system. The technologies.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
To me, I think, looking at it from our perspective, so I'm pretty integrated with Nissan. They're not all the way there yet. Don't have 100% of their vehicles. From a logistics and an inventory standpoint, it's got to be all, or it doesn't really help from where the cars are sitting. But there has been discussion around different attributes coming out of that system: batteries, tires, some same things you guys mentioned. I think the people who are setting all this telematics up are concerned today. I think that will relax a little bit over time, and it'll sort itself out, I think, over time. I think it will, because you can push the data out to ICL or to us without even having any intrusion on their system at all. They're going to bring it over, and you're not in their system really. They're just pushing the data to you so you can use it. But I think the people who need to push the data are just not quite ready yet.
I agree with you. At some point, the business case will outweigh the uncertainty. And I think the AIG working group is presenting their initial results of the telematics committee soon. So hopefully we'll see that in the next few weeks.
I know it's a whole bunch of data, but can you imagine if the OEMs are able to collect the data on their own from how many vehicles are experiencing the battery discharge and what type of vehicle it is and how long it's been? All of that information, the analytics are unbelievable. The opportunity to improve your quality of vehicle on tires, on batteries, on anything else is just incredible. Will you have to take time to analyze it? Yeah, but we're smart enough, we as an industry are smart enough to figure out a way to do that and to drive quality based on numbers, right? Mm-hmm. That's the way that you look at it.
Good comment. We're under 10 minutes, believe it or not, our time's almost up. And but we do have another question from our audience. So Lindsay, the question's for you. It says, consumers expect an Amazon-like experience through all their purchases, including vehicles. And so the viewer wants to know, how close are we to getting there?
Yeah, so like a little bit different, right? Amazon
and Marty's laughing.
Supply chain.
So thanks, Marty.
They own the warehouse, they own the distribution. It's a very different challenge than what we're trying to do in this shared asset industry, with so many different providers involved in the final delivery. But what we are seeing is an increased focus on ETA. So there's a lot more focus on the OEM side on ETA accuracy, not just, did the supplier deliver on time? Are they meeting their contractual commitment? But can I accurately predict when that car is going to arrive with some kind of certainty that now I can give the dealer a 5-day window? And then as the car gets closer, I can give them a 2-day window. And then at some point, the dealer can give the final consumer a more precise ETA. There's a lot more focus on that than there used to be with our customers right now. There are new initiatives around providing visibility. So there's like some of the boutique providers. I think there was an article about Porsche recently releasing some consumer-facing products for select models that deliver that Amazon-like experience for the premium product, which I totally get. If you're paying that much money for a car, you want to know where it is and when it's coming. So I think that those use cases will prove out, and then we'll start to see them spread more and more and more. There's a direct-to-consumer trend going on in Europe where the car doesn't go to the dealer lot. You place an order and the car is delivered through a distribution channel owned by the OEM to your house. So there's some new technology and some new business processes that are needed there to provide the consumer the visibility, also do the, the sign off for the damages and inspection. I think some of that will come to North America, but will still largely be a dealer lot model for some time. But I also think the ownership of cars will change. So the consumer may not be buying a car; they may be renting their rights to use a shared asset car that that becomes, something that doesn't necessarily live in their driveway, but lives in a parking lot down the street and is shared with a group of their neighbors who also have rights to that asset, controlled by some other third party. And that's where the OEMs have an opportunity to get in that shared asset game too. So the consumer themselves could look totally different in the future.
I think you just hit the nail again on the head, because with this COVID experience, getting back to what Dennis said earlier, this COVID experience has said people are looking out into their driveway, seeing a $32,000 piece of equipment that they're paying insurance on that's not moving out of their yard. And they're saying, what the hell have I got $32,000 sitting there for?
For sure.
I don't want to own it. I want to do Lyft. I want to do whoever else. Yeah.
Yeah, or, I don't want to take public transit to get to my office anymore, but I might be willing to have a shared vehicle that I share with other people and that I trust is being cleaned. And so I think COVID could have some interesting impacts on mobility.
So Lindsay, I want to tell you, Peter Wooding's writing down all your answers, and then 3 years from now, he's going to do an article that checks your answers. So anyway.
We don't need a fact checker here, buddy. We don't need a fact checker. We'll all be in trouble.
I'm teasing. Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left. So Wes, so not Nissan, because you're too close to it, but what can other OEMs do to contribute to reduce the delays in delivering a vehicle? Any thoughts? What can friends in the industry do to help themselves?
Well, I do talk to different people at the industry meetings. I think, Dennis, the one thing that I mentioned it earlier, I think the transparency, because we're using shared assets, whether it be rail cars or trucks, and obviously we can't get into everybody's sandbox for certain reasons, but I think whenever, OEMs are having a big launch, everybody launches new models, everybody does. There needs to be some way to collaborate, and we don't do that today. People might be able to make other OEMs might be able to make some adjustments to smooth that out. And, I'm not sure where the antitrust lines cross there, but there needs to be more collaboration when someone has a big quality hold or something like that, that would help the industry tremendously. I mean, it would help it tremendously, no question.
I'm going to jump in there. It's interesting because I would go to all this different industry meetings when I was doing Honda, and we would talk about vehicle launches. And some brands, when they try and launch, they send a ton of that launch product to each individual dealer, which I get it. You want to have but it's so difficult to get clean inventory, shippable inventory, and volume at any OEM. We all know this, right? So if you say, hey, I'm going to launch with, pick a number, 10, 15 units, times your dealer network, that's a large number. And I got news for you. That's a recipe for pain. I don't want to say disaster, but pain, because you put yourself in a corner that's tough to get out of. You're better off launching with small numbers, and a small means 1 or 2, because you can launch with 1 or 2. Say, hey, our product is there. There's more right behind it in a couple of days. But if you want to hit your launch date, don't put yourself in a corner. And picking that large launch number, that's difficult. Marty, words of wisdom to close with from Moses?
The wisdom to close with is to learn yoga and have flexibility, and we as an industry have to be yoga-wise.
Hey, that's one word I do, flexibility. Boy, you got to be able to duck and weave. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
All right. Lindsay, any closing comments of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about the environment today, and I would be remiss not to leave a futures conversation without mentioning that I think we are going to be talking a lot more about GHG reporting, CO2 compliance, and what that means for Outbound over the next couple of years.
And watch Wesley's eyes go up when I say, well, what about a single type rail car for all product?
It's a unilevel. It's just not very efficient.
That's a session in itself, but the environment thing, every OEM publishes their environmental footprint, and those are public, by the way, if anybody wants to read. They're very interesting. So if you weren't aware of that. Wesley, any words of wisdom to close by?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity to be able on the panel today, and I appreciate Peter and you, Dennis, and Lindsay and Marty. Appreciate the dialogue.
All right. Well, for my panel, hey, thanks, the three of you. Thank you so much for being good friends for the past 15 years. And Marty, sorry I wasn't there to help you with the Moses 40 years ago, but you're a good buddy. And anyway, good job today, guys. Thank you. And I want to turn it back to Peter Woody.
Thank you. Thank you all. That was really superb session. I can't believe 45 minutes has gone, and I'm sure you have lots more to talk about, but it was really interesting. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of feedback. If anybody out there has any questions that they'd like to put to any of our guests today, use the EV Live platforms, send them a message directly as member to member, and create this dialogue going. It's really great to be in America, even though I can't be there again. So thank you very much indeed. And we hope to see you soon, whether it be virtually or sort of hopefully later in person. So keep safe and really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Hi, it's Peter again, and thank you for watching. Connect us within the EV community. Send messages to each other and start to build relationships for the future. Also, take a look at our supplier showrooms. Our partners have got lots of products and services that they have to offer, which again could be of benefit to you. Make the most of the opportunity, and thank you again for joining us.